The first UFC main event of 2024 is between two top 10 light heavyweights. Number 3 ranked Magomed Ankalaev, number 7 ranked Johnny Walker. It's not the first time they've squared off. It is going to be a rematch just a few months in the making after their first fight ended in the first round in just over 3 minutes due to a no contest. Hopefully this time around everything goes to plan, at least for one of these guys' sake. Someone's going to get a dub and someone's going to put themselves right in the mix of the 205-pound title discussion. The number 3 ranked light heavyweight in the world, Magomed Ankalaev, enters this main event against Johnny Walker as the minus 455 betting favorite. Johnny Walker on the comeback at plus 350. Magomed Ankalaev comes into this fight on an 11-fight unbeaten streak. He has not lost since his UFC debut against Paul Craig back in 2018. Johnny Walker, on the other hand, has been it's been quite a career to follow in that of Johnny Walker. He came into the UFC with so much hype, so much promise, 6'6", an 82-inch reach, just a massive man, someone that would throw wild, crazy shots, had a very vibrant, fun personality, easy to get behind him as a mixed martial arts fan, and he was living up to a lot of hype in those early days. He earned a contract on Dana White's Contender Series, started his UFC run at 3-0 with 3 knockouts in pretty crazy fashion. He had a flying knee, he had a spinning back fist, and, well, let's not forget when he did the worm and dislocated his shoulder, but that's neither here nor there, because after that, he went on to lose 4 out of 5 fights, and it seemed we had reached the maximum potential for Johnny Walker. The only win in that 5-fight span, no pun intended, was to Superman Ryan Spann. But outside of that, he had losses to Corey Anderson, Nikita Krylov, Thiago Santos, Jamal Hill. So all great competition, all top 15, top 10 level opponents. But it felt that during that skid, we had got a good idea of, okay, this is the ceiling for Johnny. This is where he kind of bottoms out, around that top 10, top 8 territory. Maybe he'll never get to truly prove if he can meet those standards that people placed on him when he first came into the UFC. Because at one point, he was looked at as the person to beat John Jones when John was still reigning as the champion at 205 pounds. However, Walker made a big switch in his career, and as of September 10th, 2022, he's been on a heater with 3 straight wins against Jan Cutelaba, Paul Craig, Anthony Smith. 2 of those are by finish. Got a decision win over Lionheart, and then had the no contest back in October against his foe, Magomed Ankalaev. And that is why we are here today at UFC Vegas 84 with these two getting a rematch, because there is big-time stakes on the line. When we have the number 3 ranked Ankalaev, who's been in a title fight before, fought to a draw against Jan Blachowicz at the end of 2022. You have the number 7 Johnny Walker, who had all the hype at one point, lost it all, in a sense gained a lot of that back, looking to keep that momentum, to put that no contest to bed and get the biggest victory of his career to launch himself in to the top 3 of the light heavyweight division. I think a lot of people, view this fight as a grappler versus striker, in the sense of Magomed Ankalaev from Russia has a very strong grappling, wrestling background. Johnny Walker, known as the long, rangy, wild striker that has all of those flashy finishes that I've talked about in the past. But I think there's a lot more to that. I think if you look, deeper into it, Magomed, and his resume shows that he's got 5 knockouts in the UFC, that have come from, most of which I should say have come from being on the feet. He has very sneaky high-level striking. He has sneaky power with not only his hands, but he can throw in a front kick. He can throw in a high kick every now and again and really flash his opponents, stun them, and put them in danger en route to getting a finish. And Johnny Walker showed just 2, or I guess I should say 3 fights ago now, where he got a submission over Jan Cutelaba. He has committed to bettering himself, to growing as a mixed martial artist. And, part of that comes with experience. And I think we've seen that, this guy that at one point didn't know what a decision was, never went the distance, has had a few of those sprinkled in where he's tried to fight a little bit smarter, not put himself in as much danger. Some winning efforts, some losing efforts with those methods. However, I think the perfect kind of style for Johnny is taking that old, crazy, flashy, wild Johnny Walker that we knew years ago with this kind of newer, a little bit more reserved, more technically sound fighter, Johnny Walker. You mesh those together and find a middle ground. That's where Johnny Walker can succeed the most. And I think if he wants to succeed in this fight, especially over the course of a 5-round fight against someone we've seen go 5 rounds in Ankalaev, he's going to have to do that here. He's going to have to be very intelligent. He cannot put himself in danger because if he tries to do something crazy, Magomed will just snatch a leg, throw him down, and hold him down. I believe that if Ankalaev gets this on the ground, Walker will not be able to get back up. We've not seen Johnny really be tested in the grappling department. If you go back through a lot of these fights, if someone is offensively trying to wrestle him, there's not much tape on it in the UFC. And I think, now when he's getting a matchup of that caliber against the number 3 ranked fighter in the world, it's a big sink or swim moment for Johnny to really prove that he has gotten better in all aspects of the game, because we know Ankalaev has all of the skills and capabilities to be a UFC champion. He damn near became it when he fought Jan Blachowicz. And I think now he's really wanting to make a statement here against Johnny Walker and earn another crack at the 205-pound gold. It's definitely an intriguing matchup for sure. I can see a world where Ankalaev comes in, makes easy work of Johnny, makes a big-time statement to really prove he's able to get back in there for a title. And on the other side, though, I think Johnny Walker can make this tricky. I think he can make this hard on Magomed Ankalaev. I think he can definitely look much better than a plus 350 underdog and maybe, just maybe, pull off the upset, get the biggest win of his career, and launch himself into title contention. And before we get out of here, I want to touch on a couple of other big fights on this card, because it's not just, some little fight night to glance over. There's some goodies throughout the main card and prelims. And we go to the co-main event because the main event's not the only fight that's getting ran back a second time, because we have Manel Kape facing off against Matheus Nicolau for the second time. This is number 5 in the world at flyweight versus number 6 in the world. And if we remember, let's go back. This fight, when it first took place, was March 13th, 2021. This was Matheus Nicolau's re-debut back into the UFC for his second stint and Manel Kape's second fight ever in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. They fought to a razor thin split decision where Nicolau did get his hand raised, got a victory, and it started a 4-fight stretch of victories before he fell short in his most recent outing against Brandon Royval early on in 2023. And for Manel Kape, it started out very strange. He had a lot of hype coming into the UFC, a former Rising champion, a very dangerous, flashy guy with tons of finishes, a very fun fighter to watch. He started his UFC tenure 0-2. The other loss was to the current champion, Alexandre Pantoja. So you look at those first 2 fights that he had in the UFC, welcome to the league. That's what that means to me. But since then, he's tallied off 4 straight wins. It started with a bit of a hiccup. He did miss weight in his fight with Ode Osborne. But since then, he's really surged and looked good. He had 4 fights in 2021. He started 0-2. He finished that same year 2-2, but has only fought 2 times since December 4th, 2021. He fought 1 year later against David Vorak in December of 2022, got a decision victory, and then fought in September of 2023 against Felipe dos Santos and got a decision victory. A lot of inactivity these past couple years. It's crazy that we're going on 3 full calendar years that he's been in the UFC. And a lot of these fights that have been canceled haven't been necessarily Kape's fault. He's had a lot of injuries to his opponents and just a lot of drama. He's been surrounded by drama. He's made his opinions very well known at press conferences and such. So now he gets a big time opportunity to crack into the top 5, to get into the title contention talks, which is so great right now in the flyweight division, and avenge a loss that he had previously against Matheus Nicolau. Another fight I want to hit on quickly is in the bantamweight division. Number 13, Ricky Simon, returning after his first loss in quite some time in a main event slot against Song Yadong. He'll be taking on the 30-year-old surging Mario Bautista. These are two guys at bantamweight that are, really in the back half of the division. Ricky at number 13, Mario on the outside looking in, trying to crack into the rankings with a big win here over Simon. But it just shows the depth and talent that there is at 135 pounds right now. And I love everything about this fight. I've been a big fan of Ricky Simon for quite some time. It's been well documented here on the show. And, before that loss to Song Yadong back in April of 2023, he was on a 5-fight win streak, really was surging and coming into his all, not only getting his same type of dominant decision victories with his wrestling, but showing some very improved skills in his stand-up game. And I think that's going to be the difference, or at least it can be the difference in this fight with Mario Bautista. Much like Ricky Simon in his last fight, a 5-fight win streak, gets a big jump up against Song Yadong competition-wise and falters. Well, Mario Bautista on a 5-fight win streak of his own right now with 3 submission victories, and now he's getting a relatively big jump to number 13 ranked Ricky Simon, because I view Ricky as a better fighter than number 13 in the world. And Mario comes in here with only 2 losses to his name, and one of those being to Corey Sandhagen in his UFC debut back in 2019, the other to Trevin Jones. Both these guys have fought a lot of very good competition, really from the second that they came into the UFC. I mean, let's look back at Ricky Simon. His first fight and victory in the UFC was against Merab Dvalishvili, who is now number 1, number 2 in the world right now, getting ready to fight Henry Cejudo, where the winner will surely go on, at least I hope, to fight the winner of Sean O'Malley and Marlon Chito Vera in March. This one, I think, will come down to the striking, because both are so well versed in the grappling world, are very strong in their own right in the ways in which they get their opponents to the ground, keep them on the ground, look for finishes on the ground. I think it's going to be a matter of who has improved the most in the striking department. We've seen it more on the side of Ricky Simon, although it didn't look great against Song Yadong. But for Mario here, he's really going to have to prove that he's grown since his last fight in August if he wants to really make a stamp here, make a statement against Ricky Simon, and bounce in to the bantamweight rankings. And then there are just some other names that I want to sprinkle in just to give some shine for you guys. We've got Jim Miller fighting on this card for his 830th UFC fight. He's going up against Gabriel Benitez. I think that is just such a great banger between 2 veterans of the fight game. Phil Hawes and Bruno Ferreira are going off against one another. The odds of that even making it past, over 0.5 rounds are slim to none, which is why I may take the fight to go to round 2, but we'll talk about that at a later point. That's going to be an absolute banger. The OG heavyweight Andre Arlovsky's going up against the former Reds minor league pitcher Waldo Cortez Acosta, who's looking to continue his momentum since winning on the Dana White Contender Series and earning a UFC contract. And I got to talk about my man, Marcus McGee. He's came in and quickly mounted a 2-0 impressive record in the UFC. He's taken on Gaston Bolanos here on Saturday night. I look for it to be a very, very fun fight and a chance for Marcus to really make a name for himself on the outside looking in at men's bantamweight. So that's my big hitters discussion-wise for UFC Vegas 84. Again, headline in a rematch between Magomed Ankalaev and Johnny Walker. Potential title shot on the line, pending Jamal Hill's recovery from his Achilles, of course. Another rematch in the co-main event, number 5, number 6 at flyweight, Matheus Nicolau and Manel Kape, and some great, great fights on the undercard. It's a pretty decent night to return to the 2024 fight season, and it's going to be followed up by a pay-per-view, UFC 297, the very next week. So I hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown. If you did, drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Be sure to follow on social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and follow on your favorite audio podcasting platforms such as Spotify, Apple, and many more. Let me know in the comments below your predictions for the fights this weekend, who's taking the main event, who's taking the co-main event, and everything in between. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the fights. Let's get this ball rolling in 2024.